Go. All right, Rafael, Trent, again, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me, and congrats on the world premiere of Fly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How excited were you for the film to make its world debut at Outfest?
I was.
I thought that this day was never going to come. It felt like a very, very long journey.
Definitely. Well, how was it received by audiences?
We had a completely packed crowd. There was even a standby line. So we were completely sold out, which we were thrilled the level of interest in the film. And at the end of the film, the reactions throughout it were obviously in the beginning of it, you're super nervous and you're like, how's it playing? How's it playing? And it just really picked up speed. And I found myself even reacting with the audience as if I'd never seen it. And we were met with a standing ovation at the end of it. And I was just completely overwhelmed and really honored to be there and to have that experience.
That's awesome. Love it. So tell me, how did the concept of Fly come to fruition? What inspired you both to create this film?
We, Raph and I met about maybe a month before the pandemic hit, actually on 2/2/2020. A very synchronistic, magical date. And Raph has a background in writing plays. He's a playwright and also went to acting school, has this MFA in acting. And I went to USC Film School, and I'm a director. And so I had been looking for a story to tell I had previous projects that I almost had greenlit, but the budget was coming in a couple million, and I was able to get it partially financed, but I had never really gotten it over the, to the place that we were actually shooting. And so I had been looking for a while for a story that was very contained and had minimal characters that I knew I could pull off and that nobody could tell me no. And I was actually, similar to in the movie, I was watching the dog Harry dog sitting because it's two friends of mine. So I was watching their house, watching their dog. And I just met Raph about a month before. We had talked about writing a script together. And I told him that I was going to teach him screenwriting or teach him how to make movies. And so whenever the pandemic hit, he had actually come over and we were sitting in the house, and I was like, oh wow, this is actually the perfect premise because there's a good reason that we're stuck inside now. And then Raph chimed in and said, because I originally pitched, what if two strangers get lost in the house in the pandemic? And, obviously there's so many stories that are playing out. And that could be really interesting. And he goes, well, what if they're exes? And I'm like, that's fantastic. That creates higher stakes and complicates the situation. And then what if I also have a boyfriend that I'm navigating? So that was the original spark. And then soon after, obviously, everything was locked down. I'm a bit of a germaphobe, like in the movie. And the lines in LA at the grocery stores, which you also see in the movie, I was like, yeah, I can't do this rap.
I'm sorry, you're not a bit of a germaphobe, you are a germaphobe.
I'm recovering. I was much worse as a kid, and now I'm in a much better space. But when the pandemic hit, I'm like, thinking it's like, my mind went to the extreme, and so I thought I need to get away from people and I need to seclude myself. And fortunately, my family has a cabin up in the mountains in Colorado. And I told Raph about that, and I said, "Do you want to go there and write a script?" And he was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And then he told his friends that he was going to the woods to write a script with somebody he just met. And they were like, "You're crazy! Red flags, red flags!" But we ended up doing that, and we were there with no TV, no internet, and no cell signal. And we would drive down to where we would get cell signal, and we would FaceTime our friends every Friday to watch RuPaul's Drag Race, and that was the highlight of our week. And we would use all that and channel it into the script. And we basically just, I feel like, took a lot of life experiences and everything that we had within our grasp and stories that we had lived, and we transmuted it and made it into a piece of art that hopefully people can connect to and enjoy.
That's awesome. Love it. And I love the drag aspect of this film. And with the anti-drag sentiment currently going around, how timely do you believe this film is?
Raph, I'll let you take that.
Well, before all this was happening, I already thought that we were creating like a timeless pieces. Because like the message of self-love and self-acceptance and bravery and authenticity, I feel like it's a message that's always important regardless of generation. But the fact that all this came at like through our political like a sphere, like as we're finishing the movie, it couldn't be we couldn't be more in sync with what's happening. So it's crazy. Like 3 years ago, I never thought when we were writing the script. I'll be honest, I never thought that we were going to be in a moment in time in our politics in which drag queens and queer people will be villainized.
Yeah.
Like so that we're taking 10 steps back. But that being said, now our movie cannot be coming out in a better moment because it exactly how do you say this? Uh, um, it 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 destroys and it, no, not destroys. It disarms all this misinformation, and it disarms and goes against all this disinformation and hatred that it's coming out into the public sphere, and it brings us closer to the stories of these people and why these people do this, and the joy that this brings, and that this is harmless. This is a art like any other art.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. So what do you both ultimately hope audiences take away from Fly? Rafael, I'll start with you.
I feel like in that last seconds of the movie, when the title of the movie is revealed, I feel like that's what I wish for our audiences, that they leave the theater with a little bit more love for themselves and a little bit more empathy for each other, and maybe even like with a feeling of feeling a little braver, like to try maybe things that they have never tried before.
Definitely. And Trent?
Yeah, I think that when we set out and wrote the script, Raph and I were both looking to bring levity, to audiences. And I think that oftentimes when you do, like you were talking, look at the clip of our nation and how divided we all are, I think that we all sometimes could use something that's light and that makes us laugh. And Raph and I joked that we were inspired 5 minutes where they don't have to do a shot and they can just enjoy the ride. So I also, I think that, as Raph said, I hope that they leave feeling inspired. And after the premiere, it's funny because I talked with a few people that had never tried drag, and they're like, I never really thought about that because it's not something that naturally calls to me, but I see how there's so much like transmutation and fear that these drag queens are doing, and like I think it could be kind of cool for me to like try to do that, see how I feel, find my inner queen. And I think that there's some real empowerment in that hopefully resonates.
Definitely, for sure. And I was also very excited to see that Shia Diamond plays a role in this film. What was it like working with her?
She is a star, not only as a musician and as a singer, as you probably already know, but as an actress, she's absolutely electric. She's so charismatic. She's actually a friend of mine for quite a few years. And so when we wrote this script, I wrote it with her in mind, and she had never acted before. So this is her acting debut. And I always believed that, she was going to be as charismatic as she is. And I feel very proud to say that she slays it. And working with her is just fantastic. She is a beacon of light, I think, for our entire community. And I'm just so honored to be able to give her the platform of her first feature film, because I really don't think this is going to be her last. And I also think she's going to, groundbreak into TV too. And one thing that Raph and I both set out whenever we wrote the script is we wanted to write this role of Max's best friend, Denny, who's the heart of the film, but also we don't make any mention that she's trans in the movie. And I'm really proud of that, because I think a lot of representations we get stereotyped or tokenized or used as like, oh, now there's this trans character, and this movie is not that.
Yeah, for sure. It's not like a crucial part of her role or her character or story. She is what she is. Yeah, and I love that.
She's a human being, and that's just an aspect of her, but it's never even discussed because that's not.
And not only that, like she's a human being that is confident and comfortable in their skin, and for me also it's very important to showcase a character like that is so comfortable with her sexuality and with her skin, and again, no mention at all whatsoever of what identity or sexuality she is. That's not important. She's a joyful, like electrifying character that like transcends the heart of the movie. And I also feel very proud of the character, and like obviously I gave a life to it because I honestly couldn't imagine anyone else doing like the name that she
Definitely, for sure. So, in addition to directing the film, writing, producing, and you also had the pandemic, the micro budget, you also star in the film. So, how challenging was it to wear multiple hats, especially directing yourselves?
Oh my gosh.
Insane.
It was so brutal. I don't think that you can really understand how brutal it was until you go through that, because it was like, 1 second you're needing to be on screen and be in this emotional scene, and the next minute you call cut, you're needing to direct the other actors. You're also, over schedule, and you need to cut scenes or cut shots, and you also don't have a grocery store that you're shooting in 3 days, and it's on you to find that grocery store, and the owner's car just got towed, and you chipped your tooth and you have to get it fixed that night. So have fun. So the fact that this film exists and makes sense alone is a miracle. This was my first time ever acting, and I'm going to credit Raf to seeing the potential in me, because I was very nervous about that. And I many times told Raf, like, should we cast this role? Like, I think maybe we should cast this role. And he would tell me, no, Trent, this role is you. This role is you. You have to do it.
The week before shooting, he's like, we're gonna cast someone. We're gonna cast someone. I was like, no.
Also, the first day of shooting, I almost had an anxiety attack because
Really?
the camera's in your face and you have your whole crew right there. And I realized not only were they all relying on me as the director, co-director, and the creative behind this project, but also my performance was going to be what helped make it swim or sink. And so that kind of pressure, I almost crumbled. Both were like, what the hell did you make me do? I was like almost upset about him. We have to recast. And then he reminded me that the dog Harry, who I had a very special connection with, never was within never for me. He followed me everywhere, very close on, and he's like, Trent, we wrote the movie around Harry, and Harry's not going to follow anybody else. He's like, you're stuck with this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's right. So at that point, the ball was like rolling too much that I was like, this is what it is. We got to make the most of it. And I'll tell you, every morning I woke up and I was in that shower and I was saying my, you can do this, and all my mantras that just believing and, trusting the process. And in the end, I'm proud of having gone through that fire and made it to the other side.
It clearly worked out in the end for you.
Oh, thank you.
So now that Outfest is over, what's next for the film?
Rap.
So we're in the process of submitting to other festivals and waiting to hear back from other festivals that we're like very interested in entering, like the Austin Film Festival, like New Fest in New York, and start like sending the movie to like possible like buyers and see where this movie can land and exist. Like usually when like indie films go to festivals, like usually the most common route nowadays is like go immediately to. I highly believe that this movie belongs to the theaters, and not only I believe it belongs to the theaters, I believe that it will be very, very successful in theaters. I feel like this movie, if it gets released strategically, like in some of the big cities like San Francisco, LA, Miami, New York, Chicago, Austin, you have like a really targeted marketing, this word of mouth, this could be a very, very successful theater run, and especially with a low budget and how minimal the cost to produce it was. I I highly believe that this could be also very profitable. So let's see
Yes.
where we end, and hoping for the best.
Yes.
I think also like we finished the film up to days before our world premiere. So it was a mad dash to the finish line. And now we're all just kind of like coming up for air. Baby, and we're not exactly sure where it's going to end up, but we're hoping to align ourselves with a studio or a streamer or somebody that can come in and see hopefully the gem that we have and help us roll it out or distribute it to the world. So that's going to be, you know, one aspect of filmmaking is making the actual movie, and then you go into a whole new phase, which is the marketing and the selling. So I think we're just now, you know, starting that next chapter, and we're bought the ticket and we're taking the ride.
Yes, for sure, definitely. Well, how can one stay up to date with the film, where it's playing, etc.?
We have an Instagram, F.L.Y.movie. We also actually right now, a lot of this is like all happening, you know, at the same time. So we're also in the process of creating a website that I think is going to be fly.movie. We're working on our SEO and everything right now so that we're one of the top hits whenever you do Google us. We also have a YouTube TRK Pictures. That's where our trailer exists right now. But I think that's kind of covers the basis for now.
Yeah, that's where we are.
Okay, perfect. Then Trent, how can one stay up to date with you personally?
Probably the best way to stay up to date with me is my phone number. No, I'm just kidding. Is at Trent Kendrick on Instagram.
Okay, perfect. Hey, Rafael.
And I am at Rafael.Albarra_.
Okay, perfect. Then before we wrap up, are there any other upcoming projects or anything else either of one of you would like to mention or plug at this time?
Yeah, I mean, right now, Raf just finished a mini series, like a web series that he's super excited about that I just read, and it's fantastic. His writing is phenomenal. We're really excited about that for TRK Pictures. I also have a few features up my sleeve over the years. Obviously, I've been writing, and some of the projects that I wasn't able to get financed before. We had some producers sitting in at the screening on Tuesday night at the premiere, and the reception was really positive. And so right now they're in talks about maybe going back to some financiers now that we have this also to show. So watch out for TRK Pictures. We're coming in hot.
Yes. Well, like we prove ourselves into letting know everyone that we were able to like make not only a cohesive movie, but a good movie with like very, very limited resources. So imagine what we can do when you give us the resources. We're ready.
Yes, fantastic. Awesome.